We're returning now to Apple and to conditions in some of the factories that produce Apple products. Earlier in the program, we spoke to Brian Merchant, whose book, The One Device, The Secret History of the iPhone, goes inside Foxconn's factory, producing for Apple on the outskirts of the Chinese city of Shenzhen. It's a golden apple for shareholders at the moment. The fiscal quarter ended December 31st, saw an all-time record for quarterly revenue, $78 billion. Apple outsources much of its manufacturing to, and I quote, partners like Pegatron in China. On the outskirts of Shanghai, the Pegatron factory employs as many as 50,000 people to assemble iPhones. Dejian Zeng, a graduate student at New York University, spent last summer working undercover there. And what he found was the poorly paid drudgery that Apple tries so hard to persuade us is not the reality of working life in such factories.
Why we choose this factory is that we kind of expecting a strike at the very beginning, because according to China Labor Watch, their research, we find that the wages of the workers in 2016 is actually much lower than what they got in 2015. That's because in 2016, Shanghai City raised their minimum wage law, so the factory had to raise the wages accordingly. But at the same time, they cut all the benefits, compensations, and like meal stipends for the workers. That's why in the end they're getting less. So we see a huge wage cut there, and that's why I walk in and I want to see it might be have a strike. But that didn't happen in the end. So it turns out it's just me have a very interesting experience in the factory, make a lot of friends with workers, really know about their life, and trying to reflect on how the global value chains works and what are the responsibility of those big brands on workers' condition.
Can you tell me about the workers? Where are they from? Are they mostly migrant workers? Have they come from elsewhere in China?
Yeah, so most of them are migrant workers, and they come from different areas all over the country, I would say. So, but I didn't see any workers that really come from local, like in Shanghai City. I didn't see any workers that, at least I know of, that come from Shanghai. Some of them come from Guangdong, southern part of China. Some of them come from Heilongjiang, the north part of China. And some of them come from Sichuan, the west of China. So they are basically everywhere. And then they are about my age. So a lot of them are their age from 18 to 30, and most of my friends that I know in my assembly line, like who's sitting next to me or around me, they are like about 18 or 25 or 27, something like that.
And for the most part, the work is repetitive, mind-numbingly boring. You have no say over overtime if overtime is required. You do it, and the thing that struck me from your accounts that I've read elsewhere is that in their downtime, a lot of these workers just want to sleep.
Yeah. So it is pretty tiring working on the assembly line, because we stay in the factory for 12 hours, and we work for 10.5 hours in total, and we are sitting on the backless chair. And what we are doing is just simply fasten one screw. For me, it's fasten one screw over and over again for a whole day. So because the job is very boring, it puts you very sleepy, obviously.
So what is your conclusion about these labor practices? Firstly, a very quick question. Are they legal?
I think it's legal.
Okay, the next question then is, are they moral?
I don't think they're moral. Typically on the overtime, when you're forced to do overtime, when you don't want to work on overtime, and they told you at the beginning that it's voluntary, but in practice it's not, I don't think that's moral.
And so when you see people like me, I have an iPhone, using the iPhones, what do you want us to know about the conditions in which they are made?
So I personally don't think it is realistic to advocate for customers to don't buy the products. Even for myself, I still use Apple products like iPhones and MacBooks. What I think the customers can do is listen to the story and be aware that there's millions, thousands of workers, day and night, working like 24 hours in the factories and trying to produce this kind of amazing electronic devices that we are using every single day. Just think about the iPhone that you're holding now. It might have been touched by thousands of workers, their hands, and now it's in your hands. And I think it's very, very important for the customer to be aware of that and do more advocacy for them. Because from my experience on the assembly line, I can totally see that the factories are very care about Apple's opinions. Like every time when Apple comes to audits, or Apple has some requirements on their, like they need to keep records on the training and stuff like that, they care about it a lot. So if customers can do more advocacy, repost it on social media and talk more about it, be more aware about it, and that Apple will care about it, and more positive change will happen in the factory. I think that's what I want to get on.
Dejian Zeng, who worked inside one of the factories.